Hello, everyone. Welcome tuning into the ecommerce podcast. Today, we're in downtown Berlin at the headquarters of Pentaleap Retailmedia Technology, and we have Andreas Reiffen with us today, co-founder and the CEO of Pentaleap Technology. Andreas, thanks for having us. Welcome to the show.
Mert, thanks for coming to Berlin. Excited to have this podcast episode with you.
We appreciate the hospitality. We appreciate the great setup. And we're very excited to be here with you today talking about the retail media technology, what's expected in the industry, and what's coming ahead of the horizon. I'm expecting a lot of insights and good tidbits from the experience you have, from the products you have. We're excited to hear all about what you have to say.
Let's nerd out.
Let's kick off with the Pentaleap Technology. It's a new company, new name, and I believe you're going to bring a lot of upside things in the industry. Tell us a little bit about the story behind Pentaleap.
So Pentaleap is actually a spin-off from 𝐓𝐡𝐚𝐧𝐤.
Yep.
And we started 5 years ago when we saw that what Google did within Google Shopping would probably move into more of a retail environment. And this was the point of time where 𝐓𝐡𝐚𝐧𝐤 got into the market.
Right.
And my idea by that point of time was, hey, there's something that isn't going perfectly well, because as a retailer, you had to get demand from just one single network. And said, there's this whole programmatic industry. Why isn't there any programmatic technology? So as a retailer, you could stitch in a multitude of different networks. And we said, hey, let's go and tackle this market, build a product, and let's go, let's say, programmatic SSP. And we started and had several companies who were actually very interested. Google was about to get into the space. And for several reasons, last minute, this thing just did not happen. And the reason was it was way too early. There were just, at that point, 𝐓𝐡𝐚𝐧𝐤 and then 𝐓𝐡𝐚𝐳𝐤, and there were very few other companies. And the problem to solve was, how do we get all this retail media thing off the ground? And it's not about optimizing it. So what we did is we were flying under the radar and doing some private market stuff. And like a year and a half ago, we realized, oh, interesting. What we wanted to do once upon a time now is a thing. And now the market is there. And all of a sudden, this whole thing started taking off. So with Home Depot and several pharmacies in Brazil, for example, in Mexico, staples on our platform, we realized this is now kind of a rocket ship within 𝐓𝐡𝐚𝐧𝐤. And we also saw there aren't the synergies we had expected between our very profitable and growing performance marketing business with 𝐓𝐴𝐚𝐧𝐤 and this tech thing on the retail media side. Reason why we took that out and no longer confuse people on the website with a hybrid messaging. And that's why we took, the retail media part of 𝐓𝐴𝐚𝐧𝐤 with all the assets into a separate entity and are ready to take off now.
Now, Pentaleap is on the launch pad, is ready to take off as an individual ship and disrupt the players in the market, hopefully. But let's get to the basics, because retail media is a buzz for the last 2-3 years. It's growing rapidly, and it's even threatening some of the traditional digital mediums in the market, like linear TV, and becoming the third preferred digital media investment for brands after search and social. But there's a big elephant in the room, of course. Everything started with Amazon. Amazon disrupted the retail media investment with its own platform and becoming a big marketplace. I want to hear your opinion and your feedback about how retail media landscape is shaped today, why Amazon is so much ahead, and what the other players coming up doing to catch up with Amazon, the others, and how Pentaleap will contribute to this rapidly evolving landscape.
Yeah, so those were many questions, but I think it's exactly the right point to start with. We have this elephant in the room. Everyone is now doing retail media.
Right.
But Amazon, if you take a look at them in the US, they have roughly a market share of 38% in e-com. So that's already quite dominant.
True.
But then if you check retail media, you will see they have a 78-ish percent market
much
share.
Higher, yeah.
So something is just not going well for the others. While there's a lot of hype, they are lagging behind. So if we take a look what Amazon has done, it's, in my opinion, mostly two things. First, on-site, how they are driving their revenues mostly with sponsored products, some display, but 75% is sponsored product.
Right.
So they managed to show sponsored products everywhere without scaring their users away. So if you are listed on Amazon, you disappear on the 10th page if you don't bid. So they forced the advertisers into that game. And if a significant portion of the traffic goes through sponsored products because the inventory is so massively expanded today. So the second element is they democratize the access to their platform. They run their, let's call it supply side tech, and then they allow different, let's call them bidding, campaign management tools like a 𝐓𝐚 and PackView and many others to use the APIs, or even agency can build their own tool.
Right.
And so they sell their inventory in a very effective way, and they don't depend on one single party. And if we now take your second question, where is the rest? I think it's exactly those 2 points that are lacking. So today, sponsored products are delivered in some kind of silo. It's okay, we want to show sponsored products. Let's carve out some ad units and paste sponsored products in. The problem is, if those sponsored products are not as good and as relevant as those organic products, people will not want to click on them. So it means the UX guy just hates that stuff and doesn't allow you to expand the inventory. Little inventory, few clicks, doesn't work.
True.
Second problem is, most retailers are today dependent on, let's say, a single ad network, on one single sales force. But just now, we are seeing that this becomes democratized, that you can get demand from Microsoft Search, from Google Search, from a Criteo, from whatever demand that lives inside PackView or 𝐓𝐚, and this will take the friction out of the ecosystem, and that's precisely what our mission is, to democratize that space, take the sand out of the engine, and finally catch up.
You answered my questions before even I asked it, because I was going to ask you about the pain points and how can we eliminate the friction. Now it brings another question to the topic. Because of the proliferation of retail media networks and profitability nature of it, there are so many RMNs in the industry. Every single marketplace, every single omnichannel retailer is launching their own retail media networks. And I'm not sure if it's helping to solve the problem or is it adding more complexity to the problem. Where do you see this growing number of retail media network going? Do you expect a reduction in the number and elimination in its natural curve, or do you expect the number keep growing?
In economics, there's a concept called the tragedy of the commons. And this means that if all actors act selfishly, they will basically jeopardize themselves as a whole and not benefit as much as they could. And this is
right.
My analogy for retail media. Everyone saw Amazon. And by the point of time they had started, this whole thing was a network play. As a brand, you put money into whatever, Logic, and then you were targeting a multitude of retailer websites. As Amazon kicked this private markets model off, which they could because they just have the scale, everyone said, oh, I don't like that network model because it's my relationships and my brands, and how come that they put money into this bucket, and then everyone else from my competitors gets the same slice, so there's no advantage. We stop that, and we all go private market. So they build sales teams, and hey, dear brand, we want to spend here and there, and yeah, this got some scale, but it's a nightmare from the brand side because of the fragmentation. You make it very hard to spend your money, and from a brand's perspective, you probably are better off to put your eggs all into one basket and do Amazon and get it right than talking to 78 different sellers who sell you some display and some sponsored products and some in-store, and then tiny little retailers compared to the scale of Amazon. So what we created is, yeah, I understand it from a psychological point of view, but it's not really working in the way it should work. And this explains why we have this 78% Amazon and the others don't get a fair slice. So my point is, this needs to change. That whether retailers like that or not, at some point, we need a situation where you put your money into one tool, one campaign management bidding tool, and you will be able to target all different retailers, whether every individual one likes that or not, but this will slowly change where private markets will probably gradually decrease and this network thing will increase again. And we have the technology, but we don't have an ecosystem yet that is built exactly for this. And so it's going to change, and this is what will unlock the additional revenues.
This is a great segue to my retailer adoption or retailer utilization of retail media technology. But before we get into the technology drill down part, I want to bring the conversation to the Pentaleap, and I want to ask you a trivial question, because I checked the website the other day and I saw that you have a very catchy, very interesting slogan on the new Pentaleap website. And I want to hear the story behind this. And I'm reading the slogan: retail media tech you don't hate, open, transparent, and kind. Please tell us the story, how you come up with this slogan for the Pentaleap, what it means for the industry.
Yeah, I think what we see in the industry is a lot of hype now. What we don't hear as much is that there's also a lot of frustration. And when we talk to prospects and also the latest clients we onboarded, none of them was really happy with what they have. It starts with user experience on site. There are constant battles. Things just don't work seamlessly, and ads feel intrusive, and the UX guy doesn't like them, and the ad serving doesn't meet the expectations. This is one aspect. But the other one is then oftentimes you're locked into just one ecosystem. People don't feel free to choose their partners. And also it's the whole fragmentation leads to a situation where, it doesn't work seamlessly. And that's why there's so much frustration currently in the market, which is a great position to be in, because we are not competing with anybody. We are have a modular product that can basically collaborate with anybody, add value, but we can also do the whole, let's say, cover all aspects of retail media, but you don't have to. You can choose and stitch things together in a way you like.
Because there are so many components. As you pointed out, you have your ad server, you have your SSP, you have your DSP bringing all the traffic, you have first-party data integration with DMP or data management platform. But you pointed out two important things caught my extra attention: ad server performance and measurement transparency. And also complication of the technology and upward scaling needs of the companies, both on the retailer side, brand side, is make it complicated. But I think we both can agree that there will still be a growth in the retail media industry and there will be an increasing adoption. How do you see the relationship between the retailers and the brands as they get used to this technology, as they get their teams upskilled and educated? How this relationship will evolve as a retail media brings them together? Meanwhile, some of them keeps building walls and some of them trying to bring these down walls. How do you see this relationship evolving between retailers and advertising brands?
Let's maybe start where the relationship is today.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to get honest opinions on this. That's the holy grail, and we are all trying to not touch upon that topic. I would say it's a love-hate relationship.
Nice. I like it.
And love, because there is definitely a big pull from the brands. They want to get access to first-party data. They want to be able to influence things at the point of sale. And at the same time, there's also this hate component, which is we are sold this massive ROI, but there's no way we could ever believe we're getting a 12 ROAS or something out of the different programs. And then you look at the attribution and they're like shady post-view things, and you get some number which you cannot really trust. And then it's what you're sold is like a pure media play. What you feel it is, I have to somehow manage those relationships. And it's an awkward mix today between some media component, some relationship component, some tax you're paying. And
pay-to-play tax, yeah.
Yeah, and this is what you won't, of course, see on any retailer website, but that's the reality today. So over time, I think, two sides are responsible for that, right?
It takes two to tango.
Yeah, there's the retailer side and the simple rule of the game is, as a publisher, you have to sell your ROI. But there's the other rule on the demand side. As a brand, it's your job to figure out what is it that I'm truly getting. And as brands become smarter in that game, they will also demand more transparency. And this is a tricky thing, because on the retailer side, that's not really what you want to give, because it might dilute your ROI. But if brands don't trust, they stop spending. So it's going to gradually evolve. So for me, one key aspect is, how do you somehow get both? You want to have, as a retailer, the money from your brands, but still give them transparency and a real ROI in they're getting. And the very simple reason why this isn't working out as it could today when it comes to on-site advertising is, the situation today is you have a fraction of your website that brands are able to control, to influence. It's a few sponsored products and a carousel and a few tiles, and it's a few banners. But in order to bring the money in, you have to really get massive, very high cost per clicks from those brands. So brands get a limited amount of paid clicks at a very high price, and with that, they don't really influence things at the point of sale. So in order to overcome this, we have to find a way to give brands more impact, more influence, so that they can really change things as people search on the websites. And how do you do this? We come back to this relevancy issue. Theoretically, a whole web page could be full of sponsored products if those sponsored products perform equally well as organic products.
Yeah.
And our client Staples, they started with one carousel, and now they have much more space. So they found a way to give their brands much more influence at the point of sale. And then it's also the return on ad spend will be better, because they get many more clicks. The CPC doesn't have to be as high. And then you can also use some fair attribution that sheds light on the true performance.
Again, you read my mind about the relevancy of sponsored product ad relevancy versus organic products. But I want to bring it back to another comment you made 5-6 minutes earlier, which is 12x ROAS. Guys, let's be clear. If you're in a mature category, advanced category like food and beverage, or some other categories like home care, etc., 12x ROAS on PPC is really difficult unless you have 40-50% market share, and especially platform like Amazon or any other advanced retailer with mass coverage. But there are some reporting showing those numbers, to your point, because of this love-hate relationship. And brand teams, e-commerce teams are having really hard time to convince their decision makers, budget holders, this is the real ROAS, this is the real return on the investment. And that's why we have different terms now coming up in the last few years, like incremental ROAS, incrementality of the sales in terms of the retail media supported boost. So I really want to hear your comments actually about, depending on your market share, depending on your brand's share of voice and share of market in the industry, what kind of ROAS are you seeing? If you have any low teens, I will be really interested in seeing those, because these are really hard to achieve numbers. Which brings me back to another question, measurement and transparency. Because you explained the dynamics, you explained the drivers behind this, but in short, do you have hope, or do you have any foresight that this transparency will get better in the coming quarters, coming years in terms of reporting, or what are brands doing?
So I think I have a bit of a different opinion compared to many people there. And this relates to our history at Crealytics, where we work with many of the very big ad spenders in mostly Google ads, but also paid social. And so the very same thing we have observed in that industry can tell you, I think it was in 2016, I was at a search conference in San Jose, and we had analyzed the impact of retargeting within Google, because Google had started to pull more and more retargeting clicks into the mix. And we then checked those audiences and saw, for example, when somebody just recently showed a lot of activity on the website and then got retargeted, there were bits of 10, 11, $12 pushed into these auctions, and the conversion rate was 80%. So what is happening there? We are showing ads to people who are predisposed to buy.
Right.
So we raised our hand and said, hey, look, this can be, and we help you, means retailers, to measure better and adjust your budgets accordingly. I tell you, nobody was really so interested in this because why? Because it's a difficult thing. If you work in marketing for large advertiser and they have spent, let's say, 100 million every single year, and all of a sudden it turns out that the return wasn't like 5, but only 0.5.
Correct.
So
that's a reality.
Nobody wants to see this. But all of a sudden, when you get a sense for what the true numbers are, you feel afraid. Your budget might go away. What happens to your team? How do you explain this to your boss? So there are psychological dynamics why it's not really true that you want to have full transparency. You only want it as long as the numbers look great. So in the industry, what happened, and this is what we will see in retail media, everyone will talk about incrementality, and there will be tiny little baby steps to give something, but nobody will be passionate about truly solving the problem because it's part of the retailer to sell inventory. So when did this change in this, let's say, broader marketing space? It changed when privacy kicked in and user-level data started churning to the point where good methodology, means incrementality testing, all of a sudden showed better results than the old favored but very bad methodology. And this was the time where everyone said, oh yeah, look, now the gold standard is incrementality testing. So if we keep all the first-party data within retail media and no user-level data churns, yes, there will be baby steps, but nobody will fully want to make everything transparent, and there will always be this cat and mouse game, and brands need to own measurement. That's
because trend is moving so fast and everybody caught up in the buzz of retail media, or we don't want to miss this opportunity, and there is this hype, FOMO. I think this conversation sometimes brought up on the highest level, sometimes it's just swept under the carpet, to your point. But I want to ask 3 good recommendations, 3 good tactics for brands out there investing in retail media and increasing their retail media spend. How can they affect their multi-channel performance? Not only one channel, one specific retailer in one area, but when they're investing in multi-channels, from online, offline, pure play, marketplace, omnichannel. Can you share 3 good tips or tactics to improve their measurements, bringing more accurate, more reliable KPIs to this multi-channel environment? What would you suggest?
First, most important things, I think, don't rely on others and third parties. You need to own this. You need to hire talent. There won't be an easy fix to the problem, but you have to be open to see the truth first. So if you see results are not as good, you also have to be open to adjust and change things. And then you need to build measurement capabilities. And sometimes it's also, it requires some discipline. You have to stop advertising in some channels to see, is this driving incremental sales or isn't it driving incremental sales? It's hard because there are no, like, geo-lift tests aren't feasible, and splitting audiences in a proper way is also not really feasible. So you have to find workarounds, but there is a good way to get an indication for what it is that you are truly getting. And last but not least, there is still also this relationship component.
Right, collaboration and partnership.
Exactly, but ideally you play your relationship card, but you should still know what it is that you are truly getting.
And what's been presented to you, what's been reported back to you.
My key point is, don't wait for others to solve this for you. It's your job as an advertiser to really provide evidence. You get some random number. It won't be easily fixed.
No, that's really core of the conversation. And I know many leading enterprises out there already investing in these capabilities, always building this in-house technologies and upskilling their teams, but it's a journey. To your point, it's not an overnight fix, but I think there are a couple of companies, more than several companies, taking action in this direction, and the more will join to the party. Now, I want to bring topic to the sexy object in the room, right? The AI. I just published a post the other day, Group M's mid-year forecast report about the digital media investment forecast and performances across regions. There was one significant number caught my attention, and you touched upon on this. Today, in 2024, across different digital media channels, search, social, retail media, and others, 69% of the investment impacted by AI technologies in place. And this number is to be expected to grow above 90% by 2029, just 5 years from now. Where do you see AI's involvement in retail media technology today as a retail media tech company, Pentaleap? I'm sure you're using AI at some degree, some level, and also measurement aspects. Where do you see AI's role? And do you also see these numbers, 69% today, 90% in 2029, being impactful on retail media discussion or digital media discussion?
Look, I think almost every aspect of digital marketing today is impacted by AI already. It's probably AI started or had an impact much earlier than we even use tools like ChatGPT and 𝐓𝐴𝐴.
Right.
Bidding algorithms, Google's bidding is heavy AI, and it started much earlier. There are several aspects in retail media where AI will impact this. One that might be just changing the whole game, but let's start with the easy stuff. On-site, personalization. What products do you show a user that is navigating your website? And this is already high-end AI. If you take a look at TikTok, for example, they are amazing in personalizing your feed. And we will see more and more of this in retail technology. And I can tell you what our approach at Pentaleap is. We do not build personalization in a retail media silo. This does not make any sense at all. Retail media today is, there's this organic stuff and we use high-end AI, but then we want to show ads and you throw just some ads in and you, claim, this is also AI. But it's not. There's a huge gap.
It's broader than that.
Yeah. So what needs to be done is you have to figure out what products should I show a user, whether they are sponsored, have a sponsored label on them or not, doesn't matter. So there must be one algorithm that takes the entirety of the e-com data, user shopping history and all those things, that then delivers a website with a ranking of products. And now comes retail media. So products that have high bids should somehow impact that ranking, but the silo needs to be broken, right?
This also opens up another opportunity because, yes, personalization is a huge impact within the own media on site, and this becomes the relevancy aspect of the technologies like Pentaleap, providing performance similar to the organic search. But what about retargeting? Because you can also retarget the same consumer in a different context, in a different domain, different medium, from search to social and some other offsite engagement. Can you also share some examples of the AI's involvement in the retail media performance on the retargeting aspect?
To be honest, I have doubts about the feasibility of those tactics going forward, especially when it comes to Europe. There's people don't want to see spooky ads.
Okay.
And while technically this is all possible and feasible, beyond the walled garden of a retailer and that website, many people will just not want their data to be leveraged anywhere else. So I doubt that this will be the biggest thing, but still there's a lot of contextual targeting you can still do. I definitely expect improvements on the targeting side. Let's simply take a look at what the most dominating company in the ad space is doing. Google. They have a product that is called PMax.
Right.
Everyone hates it because it takes control away, but Google will make that work. And PMax is designed in the end to, you have your product feed, you click one button and you let this run across search, Google Shopping, text ads, YouTube, and all channels without really having to manage things in the way you had to do it 10 years before. And I think Google will also, on the long run, play a more prominent role probably in retail media. They will budgets will come out of the Google system, everything offsite. Google has this PMax product, which is perfect as a brand and retail media. You can just put your money into PMax, and we are already doing this with Staples, for example. So yeah, there will be a lot of advancement. Also, even on the creative side, it's still the heavy lifting today. If you run social campaign,
Right.
it's getting your creatives together. When you listen to podcasts with Mark Zuckerberg, he tells you, if you have a dog walking business, you will at some point just tell us, oh, look at my dog walking business. And then all the rest, like creatives and campaigns, will pop out from
Meta will take care of it.
Yeah. And this is where we are heading, which, circling back to our topic, does not mean that Zuck will solve the measurement issue, because why should he?
Exactly, of course.
No.
But I think we forget one of the big players in the conversation, because we talked about Amazon, we talked about major retailers, and now we touch back upon Google and Meta. Those are the top players in the retail media and digital media investment overall. But there are also big names, which is not as loud and clear like others, like Microsoft of the world and some other companies of the world. I want to hear one successful case study of Pentaleap collaborating with any of those players we discussed, or any retailer. Tell us what really Pentaleap changed in terms of the outcome, in terms of the business performance for a client or for a partner in this case study. Can you give us one example? Because I'm curious about this one.
I think it's easiest to understand. In essence, we have 3 use cases. And let's quickly go through.
Yeah.
We have one use case with Home Depot using our platform, all the components that live on the supply side, which is our ad server and our SSP component and our APIs. So Home Depot wanted to use this like superior ad serving, relevancy, expansion of inventory to ensure a better user experience. But as they do not only manage on site, but they also have in store and they have offsite channels and email, they wanted to have a unified front end where they can consolidate all things and are the interface to their advertisers. So they simply used our ad server, our APIs, and connected their front end so that from a user perspective, you can easily target ample inventory on Home Depot without having to use a separate interface. So the product is invisible to the advertiser and to the end user. It just does a very solid relevancy scoring and ad serving. This is use case 1. Use case 2 is somewhat similar. They work with one of the leading incumbent sponsor products. Let's call it an ad network. And they heard about our capabilities to expand ad inventory, make things more relevant. What we use there is our ad server and the SSP that can receive bids and products in real time. So we fetch them from that network, and then we basically render all the web pages as user search and ensure that there's a seamless user experience.
Right.
This thing led to a 90% increase because the click-through rates, the relevancy jumped immediately. So again, it's just the supply side tech that does the ad serving, and we, in this case, supercharge the incumbent player that does that, which is, pretty simple to implement, and it helps all parties. And
it helps them shift gears and accelerate, improve the performance.
It's a pretty interesting thing because users see products they click on more, so they like them better. It's good for the advertisers because they see a better ROI, because the stuff, when users click, it also converts better. We have the sponsor product network. They get twice as many paid clicks compared to before. So I think it's a win-win in that case.
Possible win, okay.
Exactly. And then we have a case where we provide the full stack plus services, and that's Staples. So it's the supply side components, ad server and SSP. It's one of the leading sponsor products ad networks, and it's our private markets campaign manager. So they take the top brands, and Staples themselves manage those top brands. The smaller brands are assigned to us, where we help with ad ops and sales. We all use that private markets campaign management tool. So that's an example of how the industry could work at some point of time, because it's ownership, leveraging the direct relationships, but also building those pipes to funnel in demand from networks. In the future, this will be demand coming from Microsoft Search and from Google Search.
Right.
A democratized play where they have a setup like Amazon, where they have a superior ad serving tech, but yeah, no limitation in regard to who they would like to work with. And if our campaign management tool at some point isn't good enough, they can build their own front end. That's what I meant. It's a modular system.
So it's modular, it's agnostic, it doesn't have any exclusivity or technical requirement to be implemented to any single platform, and it gives democratization and freedom both to the retailers who wants to run their media traffic, also the advertisers in terms of performance. But I want to ask another devil's advocate question. All those case studies you mentioned is geared toward retailers, Home Depot, Staples. How can CPG advertisers will benefit from Pentaleap's technology, or what's their gain other than the campaign performance improvement? Is there any case study use case for the CPG advertiser?
Yeah, let's take the Staples example. It's direct. So if you are brand XYZ, whatever, let's say Epson or HP, you can use our campaign management front end to steer your campaigns. When we switched from, let's say, the old platform that was used to the new one, we saw an immediate 5x improvement of ROAS on the brand side.
Wow. Okay.
Reason why we called the whole thing Pentaleap, because it was the 5x leap. So where did this come from? It was impact from there were two factors. The one was CTR, so the stuff is just much more relevant. So if you triple your click-through rate, you get 3 times the amount of clicks. If you stay on the same budget, your CPC goes down to 1/3 and you get the same volume you get a much larger volume of clicks for the same price as before. And the second thing was Staples then saw it's performing equally well, so let's expand the inventory. So as a brand, you have a very easy to use self-serve tool where you can just deliver a superior ROAS, which is mostly because of the ad serving. So in all the other instances, let's take Home Depot, that's a more indirect impact, but brands will experience the same ROAS improvements simply because it doesn't help when you show a product that doesn't convert.
Right.
The stuff we filter out is what won't convert as well, and those things that will convert rank much higher. So you have a just much more effective mechanism to deliver ads that also then drive sales.
So as a consumer, for my benefit, I'm getting more contextual experience, more relevant in the context I am shopping in, and I'm not bothered with 16 different ads or 16 different search results until I choose the right one I'm looking for. I have less time to spend to find the right product. I'm converting faster as a John Doe. Okay. Speaking of individuals, now I want to shift gears and change the focus to human level of our retail media industry. Personally, I'm reading at least 90 minutes every morning, and I write my articles, I create my posts early in the morning. It's an ongoing landscape, evolving industry, and it requires a lot of attention, it requires a lot of education. You have a large team. How do you keep your team focused, motivated, and upskilled in the industry? Who do you follow to keep up to date in the industry? And if there's anyone to say hi, shout out, please feel free. And we'd like to know also a couple of experts you're following. Maybe we and audience can also follow them too.
To start with your last point, who I'm following in retail media, it's you.
Oh,
I really, that's the reason why we got together here. So I really enjoy your content. You post regularly, and what you post is just adding value. I keep myself up to date. There are a few other people. There are many people who know a lot. The ones that know a lot and post regularly are rather rare, but there are a few people. It's, for example, Roger Dunn, whose content I really appreciate. It's second Colin Lewis, who regularly posts very good stuff. And I also very much appreciate Jeffrey Bustos, who's incredibly well connected in the industry. Yeah. Jeffrey, see you at IAB in a couple of days.
Yeah, though I follow all these people, by the way, Roger, Colin, Jeffrey, great, bright-minded people and trailblazers of the industry. and how do you keep the team motivated? Because it's really also important to keep people excited about these upcoming and growing technologies. Sometimes it can be frustrating for people who is working on the trenches because they need to also keep up. How to keep the team motivated, energized, and push forward.
Let me disclose one thing here. So when we carved out retail media and we moved the assets into this new entity, we could pick and choose, and the must-have criteria to join Pentaleap was we wanted to have entrepreneurs. We wanted to have people who really have skill in the game. So Pentaleap is an employee-owned company, if you like.
Okay, that's
and
interesting.
We ask people to convert 20 to 40% of their former salary into shares, and we have the whole team now with us. What motivates people is less some guy on stage and I'm doing the Steve Ballmer thing. Let's all run. They really love to see how our product resonates.
Right.
They love to get the feedback, and they love to hear about all the sales calls we're having, and they just get a sense that we are part of something that can actually grow really big. And so it's a joint mission. We are all sitting in the same boat and working for this joint success. And I think it's also this altruistic component. We really want to take friction out of this ecosystem.
Right.
We don't have competitors in retail media. We have to fight Amazon and somehow close that gap. And that's why we're here.
I'm really surprised and appreciate the approach because it's really quite unique. There are many different perks. There are many different tools to motivate and encourage employees. But yeah, employee-owned company is a really good approach. I appreciate that. I like it a lot. And I'm sure ownership, skin in the game, puts a different level of creativity, puts a different level of passion to the development of the not only product company, but also the culture of the company, which is a lot of important. So we are approaching to the end of this brilliant, insightful conversation. Before I thank the audience and wrap it up, would you like to also share your last thoughts, last comments before we come to an end?
First of all, I really enjoyed the conversation. So it was a great chat. I'm just very excited for what's next. I had a bit of a difficult time this year. I had an accident, just recovered from it, but feeling strong again. And yeah, I have a schedule, IAB Connected Commerce, then Advertising Week, and then Shop Talk Chicago. I'm going to be on stage many times. So I would love to see some of you as you're watching this in person. Please come by.
Thank you very much, Andreas. It was really a lot of learning for me as well. It was really substance and rich conversation. I learned a couple of tidbits, and I'm definitely going to share some of them in the following post. Thanks for hosting us here in the headquarters of Pentaleap in downtown Berlin. Folks, thanks for tuning in to the ecommerce podcast. Andreas Reiffen is one of the trailblazers and real practitioners of the industry. Again, he's the co-founder and the CEO of the Pentaleap Retail Technology. He's going to have a lot of appearances in the coming week. And to the names, addition to the names he shared with us, I also recommend to follow some of his posts and Pentaleap's publications. They're really good substance documents. Thanks for being with us. Until next time, stay ahead of the curve. It was great to have you, Andreas.
Thank you so much. Thank you.